Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. We are so excited to collaborate with WeeSleep to provide strategies for managing behavioral and sleep struggles during the holidays. We are very fortunate to have Natalie Moran and Amber Monette, certified WeeSleep consultants, as our hosts today. As you may know, WeeSleep is one of 𝐀𝐛∞'s partners, and our families receive a discount on their services. We will be sure to share the promo codes in a follow-up email. If you have any questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will ensure these questions get addressed at the end of the session. Over to you, ladies.
We were just talking about how it's like dark and cool and we're struggling to wake up today so far. So a little bit of a slow start, but my name is Natalie. My partner Amber and I put together this little holiday slideshow for you guys to just help you get through it, because it's such a wild season of the year. It's so busy. We have so many commitments. And a lot of us have young kids, and typically more than one, to kind of navigate through all of this craziness with. And oftentimes our sleep kind of goes sideways. So we'll get into all of that, but I'll just introduce myself here quickly, and then Amber will as well. So I actually worked with WeeSleep with my first child. I have two. 𝐊𝐤 was not a very good sleeper. And I kind of created these habits without, I didn't even know that sleep training was a thing. I didn't know about awake times, all of this sleep jargon that we talk about now, I didn't know about. So when it came around that 4-month sleep regression, I was starting to really struggle with her. She was relying on nursing to sleep as well, and I was rocking her, bouncing her. I'd put her down in her crib. She'd seem like she was sleeping, and then as soon as she laid flat, all of a sudden she'd have a second wind, and we'd be doing that for another half an hour to an hour. So it was a big struggle for some time. And then I found out about WeeSleep through Jillian Harris, a big Canadian influencer, was just talking about her experience and how amazing it was working with Janie Riley. So I looked into it. I booked a consultant right away, and I was like, we got to do this and get started. And it was totally a life-changing experience for the two of us. So fast forward a few years, the opportunity came up to join in on the company and help change other moms' lives the way mine had been changed. So it's been super awesome. I just hit my 2 years with WeeSleep, and I've been enjoying it thoroughly all the way through. I have the most amazing clients, and I really just enjoy bringing that sleep back into their lives and, supporting them through it, which is the biggest thing. We are obviously working on the child's sleep, but I feel like a massive part of what we do is just supporting the parents. And I think that makes the world of difference when they're supported the way they should be. So that's me, and that's why I'm here. I'll hand it over to Amber.
Hi everyone, I'm Amber, and I've been a WeeSleep consultant for almost 6 years now. I started with WeeSleep when my youngest was about 6 months old. He was also an awful sleeper, and we farmed, and so my husband started combining the day after we had him. So I was kind of on my own a lot for the first little while. He would not nap during the day. I would have to bounce him and rock him to sleep. And then I would get him to lay down in the crib for 10, 15 minutes, and then I'd be back bouncing him to sleep and then trying to hold him to sleep. And during the night, he would go down, but he would wake to nurse every 1 to 2 hours and go right back to sleep. But that continued on till 6, 7 months. And so, yeah, I was just exhausted by then. And I was the mom that was laying in bed awake, Googling everything. I would try all the little tips that I found online. And nothing really seemed to work for me. Nothing made a huge difference. And so then I came across WeeSleep just through Google, and it was actually their training ad that came up to be a consultant. And I was like, you know what? I can't really go back to my full-time job because I don't want my son to be in daycare from 7 till 6 p.m. or whichever, because my husband had such demanding hours. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do the consulting training. And if all I get from it is that my kids become better sleepers, and I can help my family's kids be better sleepers, then that's all I really expect to get out of it. And so when I talked to Janie and had kind of said, I was Googling, I found you that way. My son doesn't sleep. She's like, I really encourage you to go through the process of it, sleep train your child, and then do the training, just so you know exactly what happens when you work with a client. And it made like a world of a difference. I'm so glad that I did the whole training with him. We got way better sleep in a much better place. But B, I just really can understand what each of my clients are going through. I've been there. I know what it feels like, and I know how life-changing it can be to go through the whole process. So now I have now had my second child, who he is almost 4. He'll be 4 in February. So when he was born, it was a world of a difference, just having some knowledge, like awake times, how many naps they should be having, about routines, all that kind of good stuff. And he was a much better sleeper. I honestly do think I created my oldest being a terrible sleeper just because I was the mom that was watching the baby monitor and being like, oh no, he's wiggling, he's awake, I need to run in and get him immediately, or that kind of thing. Like, I just think that I never really gave him the chance to be a good sleeper on his own. So with our second, when he came along, I was a lot more relaxed. I mean, second baby too. So it was a lot easier, and he was a much better sleeper. We were just, my recovery and everything that way was in a much better place with him, just because I was getting some sleep. And obviously with newborns, he was still waking during the night to feed, but it was much better. It wasn't every 1 to 2 hours like my oldest. And like Natalie said, it's just, every baby has the ability to sleep, and we just have to help them get to that place. We have to help the parents support that. And it really is about working with the parents for that 10 to 14 days. And lots of times it's really hard for me to let clients go after, really getting into your space and finding out what your family is all about and what works for your family after the 10 to 14 days. It's really hard to say goodbye because you feel like you're a piece of them now. So I really do. And looking back 6 years ago, when I thought that I was just going to do this to get sleep for my own family, I couldn't have let it go. It's so rewarding, and helping other families find that sleep as well. So I love what I do.
So let's get into how to preserve sleep during the holidays. And I just sent a message in the chat. Like Chelsea said, if you have any questions along the way, stick it in the Q&A box, and at the end, we will definitely get to it. And it doesn't want me to, okay, there we go. So like I said, the holidays are a whirlwind. They're totally nuts sometimes. It's late nights, it's naps on the go, it's like not being home, it's traveling. Sometimes we're in a hotel over the holidays or at a family member's house or whatever that might look like. It's different from our typical routine. So there's definitely some things that we can do to, make it easier on everybody. So yeah, more than any other time, it's the most crucial time to honor our children's sleep, because this is what prevents, like, especially depending on your children's ages, right? This is what will help prevent the tantrums and, the crying. I know we hear a lot of parents say, like, all I ever hear is crying. And it's because typically we're dealing with children that are overtired, and they're just so exhausted. That's how they react to it. And I can't tell you how many times I myself have reacted that way from just like sheer exhaustion. So I totally get it. It's an extra stimulating time of year, with like family members coming into their lives that maybe they hadn't seen in 6 months to a year. And especially this year, among all others, it's very different, right? A lot of us had COVID babies, and it's like every time you take them out, it's an extra stimulating environment for them. So we have to set them up for success by allowing them to get that really good, deep, restorative sleep at night, and then also honoring naps during the day, whatever that nap schedule looks like for that child and their age. Next.
So some of the biggest issues that we face coming into the holidays is that, kids are sleeping in unfamiliar places, hotels, family members, rooms that they're not used to, getting off track with naps in bedtime. So either skipping naps, having naps on the go, having too late of bedtimes, or too early of mornings because they're sleeping in a noisier place than they're used to. Just losing consistency in sleep. So kind of sometimes, you forget you're caught up in the holidays and you kind of forget, oh, it's nap time, or oh, it's bedtime, and having too much sugary goodies. Not that we shouldn't have them and not that we shouldn't let our kids have them, but just monitoring them and having them specifically at certain times of the day, and just trying not to overschedule them. It's fine to have naps on the go, it's fine to have late bedtimes, but we just want to make sure that it's not too much. It's a short period of time in the holidays, and sometimes we just get really excited about it all, but we really have to take a step back when we have younger kids to kind of get the most out of it so we can all enjoy it with the least amount of meltdowns, and kind of really honor their sleep as we go.
Yeah, so one way to kind of avoid the sleep setback is just to keep naps on track. And it's important to remember that daytime and nighttime sleep are very much connected. So if we're messing around with our daytime sleep, we're likely going to get pushback at night. So keeping them on track as much as possible, same times as normal naps. Like if your child's on a 2-nap schedule and it's 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., as much as possible, trying to honor that or being within that probably half an hour window of that time. Still continuing to do your nap routine. So if you have a nap routine in place at home, bring a little storybook with you, bring the 𝐊𝐢𝐝𝐬, bring the sleep sack, all of those things, the noise machine. We always recommend like these little travel noise machines that are so helpful to, travel with because they're so easy and small and whatever, you can take it anywhere. So having all of those things set up for them so that you can completely, do your nap routine as you would at home. It keeps things consistent and predictable for them, even if you're not in the same sleep environment as you would be typically. So yeah, giving them their 𝐊𝐿𝐼 and letting them sleep as long as they would at home. So if your child usually has like an hour and a half long sleep in the morning, hour and a half long sleep in the afternoon, like trying as much as possible to honor that. I know sometimes we talked about naps on the go and it being busier. So if you can, we always recommend you allow them to have a sleep in their crib or playpen in the morning. So the morning sleep is really the deepest, most restorative sleep. And the second nap is kind of just that buffer to get you to a really age-appropriate bedtime, so that they're not overtired come that time. So if you honor a really good sleep in the morning, you're going to be able to get away with a little nap on the go in the stroller or in the car, or even just maybe a shorter nap at a friend's or family member's house in their playpen and in an unfamiliar room. So always kind of at least honoring one of those naps in crib. So yeah, that helps a ton to avoid any setbacks with nap.
So keeping consistent. So if you have a routine that you like to do at home every night with them before bed, it's really good to keep that routine going when you're away from home. I know oftentimes it's easy when you're at somebody else's house or whichever to kind of skip parts of it and try to rush through bedtime and then lay them down, and then they don't want to go to sleep necessarily, or they're crying more than that they normally would. So it's really important to honor that routine. The other thing, that when children are in an environment that they're not used to, whether it be even just grandparents' houses or aunts and uncles' houses, they maybe have been there multiple times before. It's just not normal to be there every single night. They need a few minutes of unwind time. So it's way more stimulating to be in a different place than home. It's way more stimulating to have extra people around than at home. So you need a few extra minutes. So, if your routine is usually 20 minutes at home, maybe make it 30 or 40 minutes when you're away from home. So take them to the bathroom. It's a really good idea to have a bath because it really sets a tone for bedtime. If you can't have the bath, take them to the bedroom where they'll be sleeping, and do a warm washcloth wipe down instead. It kind of simulates a bath. And then stay in that room with them. Don't take them back to the living room or back anywhere where there's other people. Have them in that quiet room, just the two of you. Let them explore the space that they're going to be sleeping in. You want to bring stuff from home so that, you know, their snuggle buddy, their sleep sack, a sheet from home, then it smells like home and it helps them to settle into the relax a little bit. The more we can recreate their space that they're sleeping in at home, so blackout blinds to create the darkness, the sound machine, like Natalie said, to create the same sound that they have at home, and then their lovey and their sleep sack and their sheets now smells like home. So you're kind of recreating that space that they're already comfortable with. You're doing the routine that they're already comfortable with. It allows them to relax and be a lot more comfortable in that situation to fall asleep and have a good night's sleep. So then you carry on with the rest of your routine, your jammies, your lotion, your books and song, and then into bed just like you would at home. The moment we start to change up, oh, we're away, I don't want them to cry, or I'm really worried about them sleeping in the pack and play that they're not used to. The moment we start changing that stuff, they will start to feel that as well, and they won't necessarily respond like they would at home. So if we can just honor that routine, create that sleep space for them exactly like it is at home, the more comfortable they'll be and the better that you all will enjoy your holiday because everyone's getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of touch on the noise machine thing really quick before we move on, even if your child's not used to having a noise machine necessarily or a fan, it doesn't hurt to have one if you know you're going to be like at a friend or family member's house that's going to be a little noisier than usual. And especially like for those that are used to a noise machine, it's good to bring just to reduce any of those distractions, because obviously once they're in bed, we want them to like stay asleep all night long, preferably. And this really just helps eliminate those outside noises and distractions to allow them to sleep through. Oh, I keep doing that. So let's talk about the sweets. This is my favorite part about the holidays, personally. I love when grandma starts kicking out her like baking that she doesn't do all year long. And, you know, our kids are going to enjoy it just as much as we do. So it's hard to limit and cap on these things, but I know like with my own kids, if I just set certain boundaries with them, they usually do respond well. And especially with toddlers, and even with my daughter who's 5, if I tell her, okay, you know, you go and pick 2 treats or whatever, if you talk them through that, it's a lot easier for them to respond positively to what you're saying rather than having a meltdown because they feel like they don't get any of it. But the sweets are totally fine. I think the biggest thing is just, you know, limiting the sugar as much as possible leading up to bedtime. So even like at an hour, couple of hours before bedtime, just, you know, replacing that sugar with something else like a cup of milk or, you know, whatever, just allow them to indulge and have fun. But leading up to bedtime, kind of bringing up those boundaries and setting those in place and kind of being firm on that. It will help you for sure, because sugar absolutely, and depends, like every kid responds differently. Some kids can't handle the sugar, it just sets them off and then they're like wired for the night, and some kids can handle it. So just respond to your child the way that you feel is most appropriate, of course, but this is a very helpful tip for those children that do kind of struggle with that. So giving them a chance to wind down and, you know, slip into that peaceful sleep. It's a lot easier if we limit those goodies.
The most difficult child to put to sleep is one that's overtired and hopped up on sugar.
Oh my God, yeah. 100%.
One good tip that, well, I think it's a good tip that we use at home is that, especially during the holidays and when there's lots of extra sweets around, is that I let my kids pick it out at supper time. So when I'm filling their plates with supper, they also get to pick their dessert, and then we're done for the night. And then they don't really ask because they got it at supper time then, and they're happy and they're kind of over it. And then we can go to bed, not hooked up on sugar.
Yeah. I guess now that you've mentioned that, I'm thinking about like the tactics I've used is like around Halloween with my daughter. So she would be like, I want a treat. I want a treat as soon as she gets home from school. And I'm like, I know that dinner's coming and she's going to blow it. So I'll tell her like, okay, you go and pick 1 or 2 treats out of your bag and you put them on the table and they're there for you when you're done having at least a few bites of your dinner.
Yes. Yeah. So try not to overschedule. And this can be the most difficult one, especially if you have family members that don't have the same age children as you, is just having too much on the go. So it is 100% fine to have naps on the go, a late bedtime here and there. The biggest thing is to not have it every single day. So if you miss a nap today, it's really good to try and have tomorrow on track with bedtime and nap at home. And then, another good day at home or away, but having naps in their bed. And then a late bedtime. If we're doing it consistently every single day, when you get home from the holidays, it's going to be really hard to get them back on schedule. But if you're just having a nap missed here and there and maybe having a late bedtime every couple of nights, it's not a big deal. But yeah, just try and honor that a little bit and try and keep their schedule on the back of your mind when you're planning out what you're going to be doing over the holidays this year.
Yeah, definitely. And like, if you know that you're going to have a really busy day the next day, then maybe scheduling a little bit less the day before and the next day, right? Just kind of like, you can still do all the things but just kind of keeping it to a day versus like a whole weekend or like a whole week of like lots of activities going on. So those are essentially our like big tips for just getting through the holidays. Like we said, we know it's super overwhelming, and it can be for us as well as parents. There's just so many expectations and things to do. And, I think like this year, more than any other year, there's a lot of expectations on us from family members for us to be super social and for family members to meet that child that they never got to meet yet, or have that extra long visit. I know every time I go back home and I'm just going for a few days and everybody's like, you got to fit me into your schedule. And I'm just like, I can't, unless you come to me, it's just not happening. So try not to, try to take like some deep breaths and just let some of that stuff roll. And if you need to set some boundaries and tell family that, like we're honoring sleep in the morning, you can come and visit at that time. We'll come to you in the afternoon. You can do that. It's totally allowed. You don't have to feel like you have to commit yourself to everything. Even though it is so exciting that we finally will have probably a semi-normal Christmas this year. Over the last 2 years, it's been kind of tough. So I definitely get it, but just try not to allow it to overwhelm you and just do what feels best for you guys. So, if you guys have any questions, I know Amber is answering a couple on the chat right now. You can absolutely unmute yourself and ask any questions now. Amber and I do offer free 15-minute consultations for families. So if you feel like your sleep struggle is a little bit more complex than just like the couple of tips that we offered here, if there's more going on that you maybe need support with, we'd be happy to just have that call with you, go through what exactly is going on, if we can offer you a tip or if we can offer you ourselves as a resource and give you a recommendation and as to fixing and offering you a sleep solution, then we'll absolutely do that. There's lots of time before the holidays to work on sleep and really like focus on it so that you can get the most out of it and really, really enjoy it. A lot of people feel like sleep training their children, there's always a chance that you kind of lose the ability to go out and do all the things and yada yada, but I truly feel like it's the opposite. I think you have more flexibility when you have a child that sleeps well because you're not dealing with the tantrums, or not at the same capacity, right, as a child that's always overtired. Or you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to that, and the children are very resilient. So yeah. Was there a question, Amber, there?
Yeah, there is one here. Do you have any advice on how to break a child from wanting to nurse throughout the night? My son is 11 months and still wakes to feed 1 to 2 times throughout the night, even more when he's sick. Is he falling? Do you nurse him to fall asleep at night?
Sometimes what happens too is it's like what you were talking about, Amber, what you were doing with your son. You were kind of like watching the monitor and going in right away. Like as soon as he made any fuss, he probably wasn't even awake yet and you were hopping in there. So it could be kind of a situation similar to that, where maybe he just needs some time to try to fall back asleep before we go in. I know how I feel. Like I get all this anxiety and my like shoulders go up to my ears as soon as I hear any crying at all. So it's funny being a sleep consultant, but that's why I love being a sleep consultant, because I can kind of coach you through how to work through that and what the expectations are, because sometimes we hear crying and it's really just, it's more like a whining, kind of half asleep, trying to fall back asleep kind of protest. So that could be what he's doing often in the night, that 1 to 2 times. It may not be at this point, at this age, and probably whatever weight he is at, that he needs a feed. It's more that he's just probably relying on that nursing to fall back asleep. So if you can answer Amber's question about if that's how he falls asleep, we can definitely offer a recommendation from there.
Oftentimes he does. Okay. So oftentimes when they are going to sleep with a sleep prop, so whether it be nursing or a soother or a bottle, anything like that, or rocking, when they wake up throughout the night, they don't know how to get back to that stage. So if he's nursing to the point of drowsy and then going into the crib, or nursing to the point of sleeping and then going into the crib, they need you to come back in and help them get to that point. So either get back to that drowsy point by nursing or get back to that sleeping point by nursing. So the steps to get rid of it throughout the night are oftentimes that we need to remove it at bedtime so that they can learn how to fall asleep on their own at bedtime without having that sleep prop. Yeah, good. So I would start at bedtime with that then.
So Megan had a question about her 7-month-old that they nurse to sleep. Should we stop doing that? So what I suggest you try doing is a wake, eat, play schedule. And when it comes to nursing, so that's for the daytime, wake, eat, play. So no nursing to sleep, now nursing after sleep. And then when it comes to nighttime too, you kind of, yeah, like we teach independent sleep, right? So we want to put children down totally awake. The best time to try that is probably at bedtime, as long as the timing's right. And you can always, what we can do is we can send Kids and Company an awake time chart for you to refer to that they can email off. We do also have it on our Instagram. So if you follow us at WeeSleep_Natalie.m and WeeSleep_Amber, you can see it on our feeds as well. And that is definitely super helpful when you're trying to go from nursing to sleep to like putting down and crib totally awake. So I would try it if you're struggling through it. If he doesn't respond, he or she, he doesn't respond well to that, then I would suggest you book a call with us and we can talk through if there's anything else going on as well. But that's my first suggestion, is just getting away from the sleeping feeding association with that wake, eat, play, and really sticking to those awake times and trying the putting down awake rather than drowsy or asleep.
Jessie, for the twins that are 2.5, trying to put down at bedtime at 8:30 and they're up for another hour and a half talking with each other. Oftentimes that's a sign that they're overtired. So for 2.5, we like to still see a nap right around that noon mark for about 2 to 2.5 hours, and bedtime right around 7 p.m. So it's a good chance that they're quite overtired by 8:30. So they've kind of got their second wind, and that's why it's taking them such a long time to fall asleep at bedtime and then waking up throughout the night as well. So I'd try bumping up that bedtime and see if that helps.
Tanya has a question: how to deal with toddler that goes every night to parents' bed as soon as noise happens. This happens around midnight. So I guess what I'd like to know is like what the age of the toddler is and when they went from crib to bed. We always suggest 3 and up out of the crib, and that's just because developmentally they don't quite understand why they're the whole safety thing behind staying in your bed. Like it's hard to help them understand that they need to stay there and sleep through the night. So oftentimes we take them out of the crib and then all of a sudden things go sideways. So that would help a lot to know, because if he just moved out of the crib, I would put him back in and try to get back to your normal routines. But keeping it super boring with toddlers, the more boring it is, the less likely he or she is going to do it. And just not allowing them to sleep in your bed. If you have to walk them back, walk them back. And just being a little bit more firm than you would have to be with a child that's in crib, that's, you know, stuck there. They can't leave their crib. Typically they can't anyway. So I would say just being really firm, creating those boundaries. And if they just got out of crib, I would move them back into crib and see if that fixes your issues, depending on age.
Amy, I sleep trained my daughter, and it worked very well until she was 2. She wakes up for the last 6 months. She's scared of nightmares. She's thirsty. She gets frustrated with her blanket, and she comes to our bed every night. So oftentimes, all of that stuff is happening because they're overtired. So we see nightmares when they're overtired. Their minds kind of, I mean, I think it's the same as us adults. If you wake up in the middle of the night with like a concern, your mind kind of runs wild in the middle of the night, and then in the morning you're like, okay, that wasn't as bad as it needed to be. So I think that kind of happens with them as well. So the more they're overtired, the more they are going to have nightmares and that kind of stuff. The other thing is if she is thirsty, does she have a drink right there that she is able to get on her own, or is this just something that gets you to come to her? And same with her blankets. Are you going in and giving her a cup of water to drink, or are you going in and covering her and fixing her blankets? We need to allow her to do that kind of thing on her own. So if she is thirsty during the night, have something that she can access all on her own, and let her figure out her blankets all on her own as well. The more we go in and, you know, tuck them in tight and find their loveys that they need, the more they're going to wake up and want us to come and put it in exactly the same place for them every single night. The other thing that is happening probably, again, probably earlier bedtime. I don't know what time she's going to bed, but we see lots of these issues when they aren't well rested or not having a well enough nap during the day. Again, at 2, we still like to, I guess she's 2.5, still like to see that nap right at noon for a couple hours, and then bedtime right around 7 p.m. And I know I see at the bottom you asked if we have advice for training older toddlers. So we actually work with kids right up till age 8 or, you know, beyond even. So yeah, we have lots of experience with toddlers.
Yeah. I just about a year ago now, I worked with a 7-year-old, and that was the oldest child I worked with. And it was so interesting because that child had literally co-slept until that age. So it's so interesting to see how even at that age, they can turn things around. And I think honestly, at any age you can, even there's a lot of adults out there that are not great sleepers, and all you have to do is create a nice little routine for yourself, maybe get off your phone a little bit before sleep, and then it just like staying consistent, it turns things around. So for anybody that I popped in our consultation links. It's not really a link on there. So what we'll do is when we send off the email after this is we'll make it as a link so that you guys can book, just to make it easier. You can find Amber and I under the provinces Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And we do work virtually all around the globe. Worked with many Ontario clients in our days here since we started partnering up with Kids and Company. So yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about how we can support you virtually, then I do suggest that you book a call. I don't see any other questions coming through. So I hope that was.
We do work in the US as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Chicago needs you too. Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. We both have worked with lots of clients in the US and had great success. So
Yes.
honestly, when we say global, we mean it. Like we've had calls with mamas in the UK and Australia and just all over. And yeah, that's what's so sweet about this job is you can help families from all over. And it's a really cool experience to see how no matter where you are in the world, all of us moms are having like the same struggles. So it's really cool to see that. Sends the Wake Eat Play schedule form to 𝐀𝐻𝐿. Yeah, we'll send them a couple of documents that they can attach to the email. And like I said, if there's anything that you're unsure of or have questions about, you can book a consultation with us and we'll run you through it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Natalie and Amber. Do we have any more questions today?
I see one more come here.
One come through.
One more, and then we'll close up for the day. So yeah, a 3-year-old wants us to lay down with him at bedtime. And when we do, he settles down quickly, but do you have advice for how to not do this anymore? So I would just, because at 3 years old, they definitely have more of an understanding. You know, you can talk to them and talk them through things and they will understand. You can give them options, create a really solid routine with them, really solid bedtime routine. And don't waver from that. Toddlers can often have every stalling tactic in the book. So just being really firm at this age with what your sleep boundaries are. So create that really solid sleep routine. You know, talk to them about how it's important for them to go to sleep on their own and sleep through the night. If you want to give them a little job or a little lovey or snuggle buddy to comfort them while they are trying to go to sleep, that can kind of replace you being in there. But you can kind of, yeah, just like slowly sneak out with time. And just, I think like at this age, just being very honest with them about what's going on and your expectation of them is important because they see through us very easily. So I don't know, Amber, do you have any other suggestions when it comes
Yeah, just one thing that with toddlers, it's really important to tell them what's going to be happening. So tonight, if you decide that, or tomorrow night at bedtime, say you decide you're going to implement some of the tips that you learned today or we talked about today, let them know that that's going to be happening. So, you know, tonight at bedtime, let them know, say tomorrow night at bedtime, this and this is going to happen. And then tomorrow, remind them throughout the day that that's going to be changing. They don't like they don't like surprises. So they don't like not having that routine. They thrive on routine. So the second that we change up that routine, they're going to push back. But if they know what's coming, they will respond a lot better because they're expecting it. They know it's going to happen. But with toddlers, we have to keep reminding them because they're not necessarily going to remember that we've talked to them about it. So the more we can remind them, the better it will be.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Amazing. Thank you, Natalie and Amber, for sharing your knowledge with us today. And thank you to all the attendees for your participation. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will be sending out a recording of today's session, as well as the resources that Natalie and Amber mentioned. I'll also be including the promo code so you can access 15% off of their services.
Yeah, good deal before Christmas. Ask for sleep in your stocking.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.